Yo, what's going on, guys? Dr. Schwaz here. Welcome back to another Gears 5 video. This is going to be part 2 of a 8-part series where I'm going to be doing tier list videos ranking the skill cards in each PvE class. I'm going to be organizing it by class type. So the first video was skill card tier list for all the assault classes in Horde. This second video is going to be skill card tier list for all the tank classes, followed by the third part, which will be a tier list for all the support classes, and then a tier list for all the promotional classes in Horde. And then after I do all those four, then I'll do the escape tier list. So it'll be basically just re-ranking the cards for all 19 classes, separating them by class type, but doing it for escape. And then for the escape videos, it'll be, again, a skill card tier list for all the assault classes in escape, then another skill card tier list video for all the tank classes in escape, another skill card tier list video for all the support classes, and then finally a skill card tier list for all the promotional classes. So yeah, let's get started here. So the first tank class will be the Anchor. So let's get started. Yo, what's going on, guys? Dr. Schwaz here. Welcome back to another Gears 5 video. Today I'm going to be doing the Horde skill card tier list for the tank classes. So let's get started here with the Anchor. So right here I've got the cards from Excellent all the way to Do Not Use. So in Horde, the Venom cards are not going to be useful. So Adrenaline Junkie, Venom Recharge, Venom Resistance, Heads Up, not going to be muted. You don't have any Venom in Horde. And then Heads Up is you take no damage from friendly fire, but there is no friendly fire in Horde, so not a card you need. Below average cards, I'd say, is In Your Face. It's an okay beginner card, but there are just a lot of cards that are stronger. I don't really even think that works that well. Bolt-Ack Bandolier gives you increased bolt-ack capacity, I think from 36 to 77 bullets. Not a card that's that great simply because you don't really need it. The ammo regen perk kind of neutralizes the need for this card. Dodge is resistance to marksman weapons. Again, these damage resistance cards are not great standalone cards, but they're okay when you pair them up with other cards. Likely that's not enough resistance to not get one shot down. You're likely to still get one shot down by snipers and stuff like that, especially in later ways. Crazy Tough is average. Extra health is nice, but on the higher ways the enemies are more lethal, so it's solid in the beginning, but in the later ways it kind of tapers off. Lethal Barrier is interesting. Gives you 130% increased damage to enemies, which is fun. Really fun to run on like triple melee damage mutators. It's just tricky. You gotta remember that enemies can walk through the barrier and melee you, so you gotta be careful. But you can do decent damage on that mutator at least. Above average cards, Bloody Shot, so that's just pistol bleed, causes bleeding when you shoot it with an active bullet. Does pretty solid damage. Barrier Boost. This increases your barrier size by 150%, so it's pretty wide. Very useful for yourself, and especially have another teammate shoot through it. So, useful in that situation. Barrier Battery increases the duration by 60%. So this just increases your base ultimate time by 60%, so it's really nice. And then the excellent cards I'd probably say are the two newest cards they added, so Bullet Chain and Harness Energy. Bullet Chain gives you extra damage after every headshot kill, so up to 200% damage, I believe, on max stack, so you have to get 4 headshot kills to take advantage of this card, maximum ability. Bullet Chain is solid, excellent card with the Bolt-Ack, but also you can be a good sniper with it too, and things like that. It's very nice. So you can sort of be a semi-anchor sniper with that card. Harness Energy is probably one of the greatest cards in the game. Gives you stim when any enemy shoots your barrier. Gives stim to anyone on the team, and there's no range, so that's great. Keeps your team alive. And Barrier Feedback just extends your ultimate once you get kills in it, so you can have your ultimate last all the way if you're killing enough enemies, so it's really nice. And then pair it with all the other cards down here, you can get a pretty good build for the Anchor. But yeah, that is pretty much the tier list for Horde. So the Venom cards you don't really need. Pretty much want to run a build similar to this. Just mix and match. You can run Bolt-Ack, you can run no Bolt-Ack bleed, and run sniper cards only. It's really up to you how you want to play the class. And let's move on to the next class, which is Brawler. Alright guys, this is the Horde tier list for Brawler. You can see all the skill cards in the categories here, so I'm going to go through them. The excellent cards, I got all the glory, so burning damage, burning enemies explode when killed. Very useful, just your main DPS card. not much to say there. Damage Dash gives you 40% resistance when sprinting. Just a great card to run. Tackle Smash Brawler I think is the way to go in Horde. The other build is okay, but Damage Dash definitely is a card you want to run since you're always going to be on the move, so having that resistance is nice. Torch Tackle, pairing with all the glory is good. Gives you tackle burns and deals 270% damage to burning enemies, so that's just a great card to run on top of all the glory. Inner Fire is damage resistance when the train is available. So when your ultimate is available, you get additional damage resistance on top of getting damage resistance when they're running, so it's really nice. These 4 cards are pretty much always in my setup. Occasionally I will take out Inner Fire for like killing time, so when on a killing time, above average. The reason I don't have it at the top is just because it's a card that I swap out occasionally. If I'm running Tackle Smash build, I'll run a killing time and take off Inner Fire. That way I can, because with the killing time you're going to be using your ultimate more, so you don't need a card to have damage resistance if you're not going to be using your ultimate. I like to run killing time. It extends the ultimate by 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds every 2.25 seconds every kill. Helps the Tackle Smash build a lot because you do tons of damage from meleeing, tackle smashing everything. Usually I take out Inner Fire for it. That because I'm going to be using my ultimate more, I don't need a card where I'll have damage resistance when I have it available. Perk Up and Thrash Ball Pro are nice too. Perk Up just gives you extra base health and regen, and Thrash Ball Pro gives you melee damage resistance from melee attacks, which is very useful in certain situations as well. Sponging Scion melees, warden hits, things like that. Average cards, Steam Engine's okay. It's a solid beginner card. Gives you a larger burn radius, but like the burn damage itself is so weak that it's just not a card I justify running. Soothing Warmth gives you health regen during burning enemies, but you have to be so close that, and the damage resistance is so slow. I mean, the health regen is so slow that I don't think it's worth running. I think it's one of the weaker gold cards in the game, in my opinion. I've seen some people say they like it, but I'm not a huge fan of it, so I think it's average. Pyromaniac gives you extra burn damage, so if you're running a rifle burn build, this is definitely some mentally card you want. Play with Fire, again, pair it with Pyromaniac, gives you burn damage on a chance of burn damage on active rounds. To maximize that card, you pretty much want to run use a Lancer or a Lancer GL, just because it shoots faster, so you're more likely to get active rounds from that. Below average cards, Haymaker. It's a solid beginner card, but the slow melee just restricts movement, and it's solid for meleeing drones and things, but Haymaker is a solid beginner card. It just doesn't match any of the other cards that do a lot more damage. Burn and Recharge is okay. I mean, I actually don't think it's a card really worth running, just simply because you can get your ultimate back pretty quick from torch tackling and burning enemies anyway. To justify running a card that gives you 66% faster is just not worth running. Burn Boost is far too situational to be useful, I think. It requires a long range build, so you have to be using it says you have to reload with 60% extra damage on a melee kill, so once you torch tackle enemy, you get an active on your hammer burst or whatever gun you're using, so that you can start burning enemies again. It kind of tries to put 2 playstyles into one card, and I think it's just far too difficult to make use of it, so I don't think it's great of a card. Glow and Slow is interesting. It does slow down enemies when they're burning, but I just feel like it's just not as useful enough as like throwing a flashbang or something, so it does slow them down. I don't feel like it slows them down that significantly, but it's solid. The cards I wouldn't recommend. Now, I've seen some people say they like the Scorcher cards. I'm not a fan of them. I think the Scorcher is very underpowered, and the extra ammo is okay, but I've tried the Scorcher build, and it's just not as enjoyable as the Tackle Smash or even the rifle build. If it works out for you, that's fine. It's just not a great card that I enjoyed. I just feel like on Master Horde it's just far too weak. And defensive tackle, this card I don't think has ever done anything. It says X stim on attack will kill, but that's the class's passive, so I don't think this card does anything. So I feel like it's just a card they added in the game, but they don't know it's broken. So there. And that's pretty much the Brawler tier list for Horde. So let's move on to the next class. Alright guys, this is the Horde skill card tier list for the Gunner. I'm going to just start in sort of alphabetical order. So Bait Armor, I think, is an excellent card. This gives you damage resistance up to 60%, so every hit you take more damage resistance up to a certain point. One of the cards that makes the class really tanky. It's definitely a card in my rotation, and I think this is one class that has tons of versatility, so this is definitely a card I would recommend. Blast Shield is okay. I'd probably put it in below average. It's too situational. It's explosive damage resistance for you and your biologies within 10 meters. It's not enough to warrant running over other cards. It's too little of resistance anyway. Boom Shot is still going to down you. So Concussive Explosives is excellent. You get stunning enemies within 15 meters with explosives. Really great to run salvo build on this class. Really fun to use. Great for stunning bosses and flying enemies, so great to run for sure. Flash Freeze, I'd say it's pretty average. It's fun to run the cryo build. You can freeze enemies 3 times faster, which is really nice. One thing about the cryo is that you do freeze enemies faster when you tap the trigger, so doing that with this card in this class, you can freeze bosses and things really fast, so it's really nice to run. Unfortunately, the chain gun ammo regen doesn't work on this, only works on Mulcher and Tri-Shot. It's unfortunate. Freeze Resist, I'd say it's above average, just because there's a lot of daily Horde maps with this mutator on it that are freezing something. 95% resistance on top of all the damage resistance cards. You're pretty much immune to being frozen. I mean, you can still get frozen, but the likelihood of it is much reduced with that card, so it's really nice. Grace Period, below average. 5 seconds immunity on revival. I mean, it's okay, but I just think there are just cards that are far better DPS wise to warrant running this. Could be good in certain situations, but the class is 22 cards, and a lot of them are better than that one. So Grub Magnet, probably a card I wouldn't use. Headshots taunt enemies for 7 seconds. This card I don't even think really works. Like, I feel like when you use your ultimate, enemies are, programmed to at least taunt you, so I don't really feel like using that card does much of anything. I tried a couple times when the class is new. I didn't feel like it did much, so I wouldn't really use it. Heavy Capacity. This is a heavy weapon class, so this is a card you pretty much is a must-have. Gives you 115% ammo capacity, 43 salvos, 64 buzz kills, 500 something Mulcher shots, 301 Tri-Shots, 215 cryo. Pretty nice. Gets you a weapon locker, and you were good to go all game. Heavy Charger, I'd say it's above average. The Gunner has the fastest ult charge anyway, but consecutive hits with salvos or mulchers or Tri-Shots can recharge your ultimate even faster. So really good to run on maps where you have ultra power drain, or ultra slow recharge or something like that, where you need your ultimate more often than you would normally get. Heavy Deflect, below average. Just like Blast Shield, far too situational to use, and then 32% is way too little. A salvo shot of Master is going to down you, unless you have 90% resistance. You can sponge it, but 32 won't do it. Heavy Shell, I'd say it's average. Reflects projectiles for 6 seconds, so those are like boom shots, drop shots, snatcher quills, pouncer quills, salvo rockets, things like that. It's solid. The only reason I have it at average is just because in Horde, this card can bite back at you simply because your teammates can shoot your shell or something near it, and then the bullets can reflect back to them. I think it's a solid card, but there are certainly stronger options. Mulcher Mastery, I say, is average. I'm not a huge fan of the Melcher build, but I think it is solid. They did nerf the card. It used to be stronger at one point, but you could do pretty solid damage with the Melcher build. And you also have the perk that gives you chain gun ammo regen, so you pretty much won't run out of ammo at any point, so it's nice. Phoenix armor is okay, below average. Stem on revive from DB&O, that's okay. I mean, it's solid, but like if you're down and you're revived and you get shot, it's immediately gone. So it's just like it's okay. I mean, Stem is nice, but if in a class that can heal itself from heavy weapon damage and so many other cards, that's just sort of left out, I think. Practice every day is okay, below average too. It's kind of cool to use. Like if you're running torque bow build with the salvo stuff, you can bypass the reload and sort of continue shooting torque bows or snipers or whatever during the ultimate. It's cool to run on certain mutators, but not a card I'd run normally. Reflect Shredder, above average. Pretty much a card I almost always have. Hits reflected, do bleeding damage. Great card, run out in the field, use your ultimate, get some bleed damage, kill some enemies, come back out into your base, and you're good to go. If you pair it with Heavy Shell, it's even better, but again, the likelihood of you shooting, boom shot sign shooting you, and then it doing bleed damage is just rare, but it's a solid card if it's by itself for sure. Serrated Edge is excellent simply because you spawn with the torque bow. It's pretty much viable majority of the game, other than the last couple of waves. It's kind of tapers off, but it's really a great card. Soul Survivor, wouldn't use. It's Horde. You're going to be playing with more than one person. Even if everybody dies and you're the last one, I still wouldn't run it. I mean, the class gets the ultimate back every 2.5 minutes anyway. This cuts it down to like half that or a third of it, but again, not worth running. More of an escape card. Tank Synergy, again, you need to be near a pilot to take less damage resistance, and damage resistance is far too little for it to matter. Team Resist, I think one of the strongest cards in this game, or at least for this class, gives you 90%, 95% resistance to allies for 6 seconds when you're using your ultimate. So if stuff gets heavy, the gunner can use their ultimate, and for 6 seconds you can pretty much sponge just about everything for a brief period of time. It does not pair with the additional ultimate duration perk, but if it did, that card would be OP, and they'd probably nerf it. So it only works for the first 6 seconds of the gunner ultimate, not the last 6. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Ultimate battery, I'd say it's average. Better in escape situations. It's okay in some horde situations. Ultra power drain or ultra slow recharge, it could be useful. Like have a Jack revive the gunner, and then like have a demo that uses ultimate to recharge. You can use it in that situation to get the ultimate back as quick as possible. But other than that, it's okay. And that is pretty much the gunner tier list for Horde. Then we're going to move on to the next class. Alright guys, this is my skill card tier list for the pilot. So I'm going to just rank it from the bottom to the top. So the cards that I wouldn't really recommend using in Horde are the following. Deep Pockets just gives you pistol ammo. The class is more of a explosive DPS stunning class, so that's sort of a beginner card you don't really need. Initiator, just no. There's not much to say about it. It just doesn't. I don't think it really works, and it's just in comparison to the other cards, it's just useless, to put it nicely. Quick Ice Cannon, solid, okay beginner card, just doesn't freeze enemies fast enough. Ice Cannon doesn't shoot far enough. Silverback has a lot better weapons. And then Silverback Scorcher, again, the card they added in later operations, but just far too weak. Not viable in higher difficulties. Below average cards, I'd say Wingman. This card used to be broken at one point where it would recharge your ultimate 205% faster at all times, but now it actually works as intended, so it's not not as good anymore. Your ultimate only charges faster if there's 2 or less of you. Explosive munitions. Silverback kills and defense will do more damage. It's okay. It's all a beginner card, but it's just not a viable enough card on higher difficulties. And being in defense mode just puts you in too vulnerable position anyway. And then exploding buzzkill. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only viable weapons on the salvo are on the silverback or the other heavy weapons. This is just far too weak, I think, on a master level to be worth running. Enforcer Expert is average. I think it's a solid, decent card to run. After like wave 30 or so, the damage tapers off, but you can pretty much melt down some of the smaller enemies with it pretty nicely. Healing munitions, again, you do healing damage. Explosive damage heals the silverback. It's okay, but I think there are stronger cards for the class. Plus, I think there's I think healing explosives works on the silverback, so this kind of makes this card obsolete a little bit. Rear armor, average. Not a lot of situations where you're going to be taking shots from behind, so really good on certain maps, but kind of an average card, I think. This is probably controversial, why aggressive armor isn't excellent. I think having stim is nice when you deal damage, but the only issue is when it comes to killing yourself for ammo in the beginning, it is kind of annoying because you need to lose the stim from an enemy shooting you. And I also think that healing is a little more valuable than getting a little bit of stim, but to each their own. Still a really good card. Still probably a card I'd run in my normal top 5. Bleeding Mulcher, one of the better weapons on the silverback. Does pretty good damage. Definitely a card I put in my rotation. Healing Tri-Shot, same thing. Probably run both of them at the same time, or do combination of Mulcher, Tri-Shot, and Salvo. Switch one out. Healing Tri-Shot keeps the Salvo alive, the silverback alive. Mulcher gets the damage going. Good 1-2 punch to run them together. And then Silverback Salvo is the other card that you can, heavy weapon you can put on Silverback. This one just extends the ultimate every hit you get, increases the duration. And then the excellent cards, I would say the final 3. Cold Finish, one of the better cards for the class. Actually, probably the best, I would say. Damaging an enemy with low health freezes it. So freezing an enemy causes you to do 3 times damage to it. Really good on bosses, well, Wakatu flying bosses. Once you get the health low enough, shoot it once or twice, get it frozen, and deliver it a nice death. I think Healing Explosive is awesome because just the drop shot or any explosive you will get healing damage from, which is really nice. Healing, you get healing from. And then the Hammer, one of the better cards they have. That's the drop shot stun card, gives you extra damage from the drop shot and 4 seconds of stun. So you can sort of be, and there's no range to it too, so you can stun enemies from beyond 10-20 meters away, so it's a really great card. Pairing it with Healing Explosives and Cold Finish, you have a pretty strong class. And then, yeah, this is the tier list for Horde for the pilot. Hope you guys enjoy, and then move on to the next class. What's going on, guys? Dr. Schwaz here. So we're going to do the Horde tier list for the veteran class. So all the cards here at the bottom here, I'm just going to kind of go in alphabetical order and just rank them as I would, as their card viabilities in Horde. Alright guys, so Band of Brothers I probably put in excellent. This card gives you stim when you're in your ultimate. 150 stim per second, probably takes 7-8 seconds to max stim. Definitely a card you want to have. I think Brutal Efficiency is average. In the Horde, I feel like you don't really need to get executions to get your ultimate back. You can get it back just from getting enough critical damage or killing enough enemies via headshots and stuff. I think it's not worth the risk of going out there and chainsawing stuff, even though your passive allows you to get immunity while executing. I just don't feel like it's that great of a card in Horde. Custom Lancer is one of the ones you probably want to always have in your loadout, just because it gives you extra Lancer damage, and this is a class that is rifle based, so having that to start with is great. Defensive stim, I think, is also kind of average to below average, probably. I probably put an average. Just all it does is it increases the stim that Band of Brothers gives you to 110%. So all you got to do is stay in cover for longer undamaged, and you can gain more stim. But the problem is that you have to stay in cover 20-30 seconds to get max stim. I just don't think it's really worth doing that. I believe the stim that you get from Band of Brothers itself is enough. Dug In is probably one of the strongest green cards in the game. Definitely one of the better ones for the class. 60% less damage in cover. That is just exceptional for a green card, so it's something that you always want to have. You're always going to be in cover, so definitely a must-have for the veteran. Explosive resistance below average, just because, again, a lot of the damage resistance cards in this game by themselves aren't very great. 32% is not enough to sponge any explosive, so it's just below average. Extended rifle mag, I'd say it's poor, or do not use. In Horde, you have ammo regeneration, and in your ultimate you don't have to reload, so having a larger magazine size is frankly not going to help you. Just a beginner card, really. Flankum, I probably put above average. Really good in certain situations because of the extra damage output, but a lot of the times enemies will likely be facing you. But in certain situations where you're doing a map where, I don't know, enemies may be facing different directions than you, shooting a boss or a scion from the side or behind, this could be very useful for that. Focus is excellent. It gives you ultimate duration increased by 100%, so pretty much the strength of the class is in its ultimate, so the duration goes from 20 seconds to 40. It's just a card that you pretty much need to be useful. Friendlier fire, I think, is below average. It does increase the radius of your living legend, but oftentimes I believe the standard radius is enough to get a couple of people in cover with you on ways where you're using the ultimate. It is nice, but just too situational of a card to justify running. And then Headshot Master is excellent, so these pretty much completes the starting 5 cards here. 60% critical damage, so get a retro, go to town, the rest of these cards, and you're good to go. Lancer stock, I'd probably put in poor, just because when you're in your ultimate, the recoil is not going to matter, and the Lancers don't have a lot of recoil anyway, so it's not really a card worth running unless you have a low level veteran, and unless you have a low level veteran, and that's all you got. And I put Last Ditch, probably above average. Similar to Flankum, really good damage increase card, but it's only useful when you're at low health, which can happen on ways where lots of explosives are being fired towards you. But pretty good card. Again, just summarize the tier list. So top 5 cards right there. Cards that are above average or average are cards that I kind of flip, swap in and out, and then below average are poor cards I just don't typically use. And that'll pretty much summarize the tier list for all the tank classes. Stay tuned to the next video. I'm going to be discussing Horde skill card tier lists for the support classes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.